on it. So welcome everyone to this sexuality and creativity meeting. This topic is something I'm very passionate about. I'm feeling a lot of juice in my system right now as I'm just tuning in. I feel super inspired to share it with you because it's definitely been my life journey. And the reason for sharing is that I know how much we are lacking that aspect within ourselves, how often sexuality can become monotonous, transactional, performance-oriented, manipulative, and simply boring, or on the other side, actually addictive when we just want the same thing over and over again. Some of us struggling with low libido, others are struggling with too much and wanting it all the time. So I feel like creativity is truly an antidote, and my intention for this meeting is to share and inspire you to expand your horizons when it comes to sexual expressions. But before we begin, I want you to really allow yourself to drop in here. I'm going to offer you just a few minutes of guidance to connect with your body, to your breath. You will see that it's not only helpful for us to stay present during this conversation, this talk, but it's also helpful when it comes to starting our sexual exploration, because when we are too busy multitasking, thinking of things, bothered by something in the world, this is when we are disconnected from our bodies, from our energy and emotions. And I want to give you a really brief guidance to land in yourself where you are right now, and you will see the difference afterwards. So just exactly where you are, you just close your eyes and follow my verbal guidance, which will just simply guide you right into yourself. You can have camera on or off, whatever makes you comfortable. It doesn't matter. This is the journey for you to dive within yourself. And just take a deep, deep breath and exhale with your mouth. Any sound that wants to come through, do it again. Just taking a deep, deep, deep breath with your nose. And exhaling any authentic sound. Allowing yourself just to land where you are and feel your body. Like with your eyes closed, you can scan yourself within and notice where you are, what your body is experiencing energetically, physically, emotionally, mentally. Just being with yourself and allowing your breath to become as your anchor. Every breath you take can become a delicious opportunity to come to the present moment awareness, which is truly where our joy and happiness reside, in the present moment. So all we need to do is tune out from our busy minds and just tune into where we are right now. And I will help you out by guiding you to let go of any problems of the past, any story of the past, anything that happened before this very moment. Just with next exhalation, allow it to let go and go outside of your space, outside of your room, outside of where you are, and it will wait for you. And your exhalation can be helpful. And next exhalation, allow yourself to let go of any expectations and plans about the future. Anything, what's next, tonight, tomorrow, in this meeting, any expectations. Just let go and leave it outside of this room, outside of this room. And stay with your eyes closed and just inspect and see how these little prompts are helping you to stay present with your precious self. And next exhalation, I invite you to send out your busy thinking mind, your analytical mind, the one that needs to think, analyze, compare, judge, decide, decision making. Right now, you're safe. There is no need to judge, analyze, decide anything. Your intuition and your instincts will protect you. So just Let go of your thinking mind and leave it outside of this room. And just notice what's here as your senses are still active. Your eyes are closed, but you are perceiving through the sounds around you. Just notice anything you hear. Perceive the fragrance of your room, sensations on your skin. And going deeper in your body, notice any vibrations, sensations, activations, emotions, tightness, excitement, anything. Just give it space to be and allow your body to gently relax. Scanning your body from head to toe, relaxing muscles around your eyes, your jaw, your lips, allowing it to melt, going down to your neck and shoulders, your arms, your hands. Your spine can be straight, can lean towards something, but just relax your spine and relax your chest and belly, allowing it to expand with every breath you take. Notice how your breath can infuse your whole body with this freshness, vitality, calmness. Going down to the pelvic floor area, relaxing your hips, your thighs, and noticing the cushion, the chair where you're sitting, that it's there to hold you. You're safe. You don't need to hold yourself rigidly. You can relax, let go. And scanning your legs all the way down to your toes, arriving to the relaxed legs. Noticing the subtleties, the nuances, the slowing down, and giving space for any feelings, emotions, sensations to pass through like clouds. At this point, we are not trying to change anything. Just allowing our bodies, our awareness to expand in every direction, every dimension. As we are here together as a group, we don't physically touch each other. We're not in the same space, but notice how through this journey into relaxation, we can feel the energy of the space. We can allow anything and everything to pass through. Any impulses, emotions, feelings, excitements, irritation, maybe anger, maybe sadness. Allow yourself to welcome all of it and become the vessel for all the feelings, experiences, journeys that are happening within, either within you or in our container together. And finally, diving to the deepest place within yourself, to the most quiet place. Like you are on the bottom of the ocean, where everything is always present, still and quiet. Very slow, very gentle, very tender, and yet very safe, very potent. And you can look from where you are to the surface of the ocean, noticing any ripples, vibrations, waves, dance. Whatever wants to come through is all welcome, because you are in a safety of your being, of your presence, of your awareness. You're on the bottom of the ocean, of your oceanic being. And from there, anything and everything is welcome. Any dance of life, any expression, any feeling. Allow yourself to nourish yourself and rejuvenate in the quiet, calm place of your own presence. And from this place of presence and equanimity, allow any gentle body movement. Maybe rocking side to side, maybe moving your neck, stretching. Keep your eyes still closed so you're not too distracted by external world. Just notice what wants to come through authentically within yourself. No need to become a certain way, just freedom of being you. How would you use this freedom? Where would you flow with that? Maybe making a sound, maybe shaking, maybe just rocking, stretching, maybe staying still and just being with yourself. Notice how beautiful it is when you can be truly yourself while at the same time we are together in this journey. And before we open our eyes, just notice what shifted, what changed after this little guidance into the presence of your being, into your calmness, into your center, to being grounded, safe, very present. That's what matters. Very present. This is where here and now are one. You're here and you're now. And this is where I want to meet you in the present moment with me. And let's open our eyes when we feel ready. And notice how it feels like to still be grounded within yourself while your eyes are open and there is nothing to take care of, nothing to do for this hour. You're here just to receive some inspiration. How beautiful is that? And I'm here to inspire you, to share my joy, to share some of my vulnerable journeys and experiences, and to inspire you to get out of your habitual patterns when it comes to sexuality and try something juicy, delicious, different, maybe vulnerable, maybe scary, maybe weird. But the point is what I'm trying to share here. By the way, I don't have presentation prepared or script. I'm feeling so much passion about this topic that I'm totally sharing whatever flows right now. The point is that early in our lives, we learn about sexuality. And of course, we continue to learn, but early memories are important. And majority of us don't have any juicy, beautiful, pleasure-based education. We can learn about procreation, how to make babies or how to not make babies. That was my case. All my mom showed me is this is condom and this is how you use it. So I don't get pregnant as a teen, but for some people it's the other way around. And some, especially usually for men, but sometimes for women, we learn it from porn. And porn is definitely pretty famous for being quite superficial and one-dimensional, and then we try to repeat it. Sometimes we learn from interaction with our partner, and we learn what works, right? We often find what works, like, this type of touch works. Great. I will continue doing it because this really works. And one thing is we're learning how it's supposed to look like visually. But another thing we're learning how it's supposed to feel like. And usually the way we learn is from our first infatuation, from our first crushes, falling in love, that butterflies, this desire that, I want this person, I'm so turned on. And then we realize, well, this is how it's supposed to feel. We want to feel that lustful desire, that full-on passion towards this person. And then we continue on in life expecting this is how it's supposed to feel, this is how it's supposed to look. And then we are trying to mold ourselves into that. And this is exactly where the problem begins, because sexuality is such a field that is really multidimensional, really full of possibilities and full of variations. And we narrow ourselves down towards one way we believe it's supposed to work. And let me share all the wrong ways, and let me share more about all the right ways that are possible. And I will give some lecture as well as my personal vulnerable examples. So the first thing that we learn is that sexuality is transactional, that we need to satisfy our partner and they have to satisfy us. So, for example, the most classic way is that, well, if someone is eating me out, that means that I owe them a blowjob afterwards. And there is this expectation on me. If I want to come, I first need to make my partner come. This is often for men, like, okay, I need to make my woman have an orgasm and then I'm a good lover. So all of these things might happen completely unconsciously. We might not be aware of it at all. Sometimes it's more conscious than other times, and we just think that this is the only way to be. One of the most unconscious and common patterns around sexuality is using our sexuality to get something from a partner, which might not be a physical thing at all. It can be recognition and love and approval. And I'm definitely guilty of that myself. I was not aware of this. And I definitely use my sexuality to get things from people. It wasn't straightforward and direct. It was completely indirect because I was lacking love and approval in my family for just being who I am. And I would use my charm and seduction and being sexy, being beautiful, being delicious and orgasmic to gain approval, like seeing like, wow, he's looking at me, he adores me, he wants to share things with me. So this would make me feel valuable and worthy of love, and I would use my sexuality for that. And at some point, I even shifted into polyamory because thinking, well, it's not enough for one person. I want to be loved by many. Why not? Tantra, polyamory, great. I want to get more love from more men out there, thinking that it will fill me up at some point, and there would be constant search, like, come on, give me more. Like, I want more approval, I want more sex. And at some point, I started to feel even ashamed that am I a nymphomaniac? What's wrong with me? Even with one partner, I would be constantly wanting more because this would be equal to receiving love, receiving love and approval through sexuality, needing love, needing to someone to give us so we can feel filled. And it can be also a lot about the image as well. Like, for example, having a beautiful lover and being seen with that lover and feeling like, I've made it in life. Definitely guilty of that, and definitely saw a lot of men around me who would do the same thing. They would feel more of a man if they are in the company of a beautiful woman who is their lover, and they would want to show off. So basically, the idea is that we definitely use sexuality to cover up our insecurities of not being worthy enough. And we would use all kinds of unconscious tricks to feel ourselves refilled and full in love. And unfortunately, it never works because then we are hungry for more and more. So either way, it goes in the direction of hunger and needing more. It goes in the direction of actually the opposite. Our body shuts down because something feels wrong with the way we approach such a sacred energy. And then we just don't have any libido anymore. And then we are surprised, like, why I don't want sex anymore? What's wrong with me? Why I don't feel the same attraction anymore? And similarly, loss of libido happens in a long-term relationship when this initial passion, desire is over. It's a natural phase that after being together for some time, that strong urge of lust is subsiding, and then we start feeling that something is wrong with us. So this is what I have to share as a suggestion of just to give an idea where we are as a society. And trust me, in my work, I didn't give a chance to introduce myself much. I kind of assumed that some of you know me, but maybe now it's the time. What I'm practicing is conscious sexuality, tantra, conscious kink. I'm a body worker. I offer women and men tantric massages to help them to connect to their life force, sexuality, and multi-orgasmic nature. And I also teach conscious kink, how to practice BDSM mindfully, consciously. So it's not driven by shame and addiction, but actually takes us to some higher places and infuses our life with beauty. So it's not something that we use as an escape, but rather we use something consciously to bring it forth and infuse our life with beautiful things. And so, yeah, I do all kinds of direct body work, educational services, and I'm also a Shibari practitioner. I use ropes as a conscious journey into vulnerability. So, why I'm sharing that is also to indicate that I know many people around me struggling in different ways with sexuality, and these are really amazing, intelligent, incredible people, like who are not just new to this world. They are quite exposed to a lot of resources and information. And yet, in my questionnaire for women around faking orgasm, as I asked, I learned that 80% of women who filled out my form over the years sharing that they are faking their orgasms, which says a lot about us and performative sexuality, and also about the fact that our pleasure doesn't matter. Because when our pleasure doesn't matter, what do? We want to give it to others. We think that by performing and making it right, making it look good, making it pleasurable for the other, this is how we are compensating for our lack of pleasure. Well, at least we are serving our partner, and that makes us feel good, but our pleasure doesn't matter. So, what is clear from that is that it's a very common conscious belief that our pleasure doesn't matter, that there is ultimately something wrong with us, that we have to perform in order to be loved. We need to seduce to be loved. We need to over deliver to be loved. We need to pretend to be someone else in order to be loved. And when it comes to those who are exploring kinky side of sexuality, there is also the stuckness and one fantasy, and then also, of course, feeling ashamed that something is wrong with us because we only fetishize feet, or we only desire this type of power exchange and it's not moving anywhere, and something feels completely stuck. So, yeah, this is the matrix, sex matrix, I call it. Someone gave me this definition, and I'm seeing like, wow, there's so much self matrix going on. And by the way, everything that I've shared, I've seen it in myself. I am definitely grew up in a culture where sexuality was heavily shamed and at the same time used to produce results, especially for women, because we use our charm in Russia, where I grew up, to actually get men to give us things and serve us and do all kinds of things for us. So we feel better about ourselves. We feel safer. We feel loved and acknowledged. So it's really a common trait in my culture, but also coming to the United States. I'm seeing a lot of repression, a lot of inability to speak up and have a deep conversation with our partners, inability to study ourselves, to dive into understanding what brings us pleasure and knowing ourselves more than anatomy, but going somewhere deeper and understanding how our emotions connect to sexuality, how our overall well-being connects to sexuality and creativity. On top of it, most people don't even connect creativity with sexuality. So this is a little negative side, but let me start transitioning into what's really possible by sharing my own example, because one thing I want to start sharing on is the topic of lust versus creativity, because most of us are used to identifying sexuality with the lustful desire. Like sexuality is all about desiring someone, something sexy that feels either a person or certain activity that turns us on, and there is desire, strong desire for that. And let me share a little personal story that can give you an example of what I mean. So I have an amazing lover, and I see him like twice a year, actually. He lives in different areas, so we need to travel to see each other, and we are really happy about it because when we see each other, we really go fully into each other. And last time when I saw him, we were getting ready to get intimate. We had an intention for our time together to go raw, deep, intimate. Like, I love him because he wants to go really deep in our sexual explorations. It's not a superficial ever. It always feel like there's something opens up through our interaction. And this time, I something felt off. I felt like my body was closing off. It's not like we were diving right away into sex, but we were having connection, communication. We went for a hike, and then I'm feeling like he gets closer to me, and something just repulses me. I'm closing off. Instant reaction, like, what's happened? What's wrong with me? He's amazing. He's beautiful. He wants me. What's wrong with this? But my body speaks like something feels off. And then he comes even closer to me, and I'm feeling like he's on fire. He has so much desire. And the more desire he has, the more I'm like going away, finding excuses to postpone it, not to get started. And eventually, I have this moment of decision making because I've seen the pattern. I'm seeing he gets closer to me and I'm being pushed away. And this is the moment that I felt like, well, I can kind of just go on his wave and just disregard all my defense mechanisms within my body. They're very subtle anyway. They're not like I'm strongly despising him. No, I just feel like there is a subtle closure happening in my system. But the other choice was to speak up about that. And that felt definitely vulnerable, as I didn't want to break the flow and make him feel bad. Of course, I want him to feel good. But I end up communicating, hey, when you come to me with this lust and desire and passion, something feels off and I'm closing. So I told him this directly. And then he says, well, didn't we have the intention to get really intimate with one another? And I say, yeah, I still want that. But this that you're coming with is not it. And I was so happy to see that he was open to this comment. And then he started to ask me more questions. Tell me, what shall I do then? How can we make this happen? And I started to fantasize like, what would work? Let me feel into that. I would love to receive a massage, but not a sexual kind of massage. And then he starts giving me massage, and that massage feels really flat, very like juiceless, and that also feels wrong. And again, I start to feel bad first, like, am I so picky, demanding? But then finally, I'm communicating this with him, sharing like, hey, I don't, it just doesn't feel right. Let me feel into maybe something else. Well, he's very patient. He says, tell me, what can I do differently? And then I finally tell him, well, you are very affectionate with your guy friends, right? Like, yeah, like my friend Alex, I love to hug him. I love to touch him. We're not sexual, but I love this affection. Like, well, how about you start massaging me like you would massage your friend Alex? And that felt so ridiculous to say that. And thank God he just followed. Like, okay, let me imagine that you're Alex and I massage you. And then I feel some brotherhood, some kind of like, oh, I feel good in your hands. Something feels good. Thank you, Alex, for being our imaginary figure, but something feels good. Let's continue. And because we both started to trust my flow, I start to give him more ideas. Like, now I don't feel your breath is here. How about you start deeply breathing when you're starting to flow in my body and massaging me with oil? And then he started to breathe deeply and something started to come alive. I'm starting to feel him. I'm starting to feel my body. And then I'm giving him even more prompts and ideas. Like, when you massage it, how about you change your pace? Like, now you go with the ocean waves and now you just volcano. And then he's laughing, but he continues. So at the end of this, I'm starting to feel so vibrant, so alive, so connected. And he starts to massage my hand, and that hand feels like, oh, my whole body responds. It just becomes orgasmic before we even reach genitals. And we spend hours really diving in that deep state of consciousness where we are just energies vibrating with one another, completely creative, completely uninhibited, completely alive. Like, it's just such a blissful feeling of feeling the whole body coming alive. And the beauty of that, that we were not in a hurry to get to genitals. We were just so deeply, intimately connected. And this is also a good description of tantric sexuality. For those of you who don't know what Tantra is Sanskrit word of woven together when we connect mundane and spiritual, right? So this is the type of sexuality when it comes to Tantra that is very holistic, where we are not just focusing on one-dimensional things such as stimulating genitals till we reach our peak, and instead really embracing everything. So this is really what happened to us that night, that we were able to bring about deeper sense of connection through engaging on many different levels. We felt each other energetically, emotionally, spiritually. It was a major state of expansion into something completely new, something really different, something very bonding. And I felt so unconditionally held, because what happens when someone comes to you with that lustful, different energy, like desire for you, and it's not just me, actually, this one I asked many people and they agree, is then there is a sense that something is needed from me for them to be satisfied. That's often happens for women, but I've heard stories from men that felt the same, that desire, like, you got something that I need, so I need you to satisfy me. And that can happen energetically, even with the most loving person, that with that lustful desire, there is a sense of pressure on ourselves that I need to give this person a certain satisfaction, and that closes us off. So the alternative to lust, when we don't have it or when we have it, but just to rewire our brain to a different possibility, is to open up for creative possibility. And creative possibility is born when you trust yourself right now, trust your impulse trust what you have to say, trust your movement in the body. And at the same time, you're able to be vulnerable and open and share it with the partner. And that can really transform the whole game because it brings about that element of safety, like I'm safe with you. That's why I'm speaking up about this. Spontaneity and creativity, because this gives us a chance to try a whole different route, to try something different. And that in turn brings you to the present moment because you're no longer in some pattern that's been paved way before and it's just been there and done like many times, or something that it's supposed to be like a duty, and instead you're creating something completely different with zero expectation of coming to the end. I know that many women can find it familiar that a lot of men as lovers are chasing their release as a way, as a climax, as a way, like that's the whole reason for us of making love here. We want to get to that point. Sometimes men can be very patient and try to please a woman first, but still in the back of the psyche, there is this goal-oriented moment, like we're not present where we are not fully present in this moment, and instead we want to get to that final result. And me as a woman, I've definitely been there. I would be sometimes so afraid that my partner will finish before me, and that means that I need to hurry up and get more aroused, and that would tense me up and would bring this sense of greed, like I need to get this before it's too late. Yeah, I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with that feeling. I need to get this before it's too late. And that brings about a lot of tension. And when there is tension, there is no relaxation. When there is no relaxation, you're not fully embracing yourself in the present moment, and it's much harder to establish connection. So, creative or tantric sexuality is possible when there is relaxation, when there is vulnerability, when there is an openness to share and speak up, and when you don't have that goal at the end of the tunnel, like you need to reach that place, you need to get to that final moment. Now, the next attribute of creative sexuality is getting out of your head, because our minds are very strict disciplinarians. They know how things supposed to be, and they will try to mold the experience according to our past projections, of course, right? We don't have the idea of how the new thing's supposed to look like. We only compare it to the past experience or some ideas we picked up in our society of how woman's supposed to be, how men's supposed to be. Me, definitely conditioned to be a good girl in Russia. No wonder I became a dominatrix in my 20s, that I wanted to break that stereotype that girls are valuable when they're convenient, when they're nice and shy. So when it comes to sexuality, it's important to drop the morals of the story, because our morals are there in different aspects of life that are needed, right? We need sometimes to impose on us the kindness when it doesn't come naturally. But when it comes to sexuality, we are free from morals, and that's what makes it beautiful, because you are free to be anyone in that. But it's vulnerable because we get it to be exposed. And another example I can share about that is that I have another lover in Thailand. He's a tantric man and he's incredible. He really inspired me to unleash myself deeper with his own example and with his suggestions and ideas, because he doesn't have any moralities or rules when it comes to being together in our sex explorations. So that means that when I was on top of him in the position woman of top, absolutely spontaneously, he started to look at me and says, take me, rape me, use me. And as soon as I heard it, it was my body that responded. I felt like that, that predator in me is like moving and using it and just ravishing him to death. Like I had this imagination that through my fast movement on top of him, I'm sucking life out of him and killing him. And that just brought me to some really wildest orgasm, and he could feel it. We were really together in it because he was also the one who brought this fantasy into our play. And that was insanely delicious. It was wild. It was completely inappropriate. It was weird. But that creative element brought such a deep spark. And I was able to experience something that I usually don't get to experience. I'm usually a nice person who wants to be good to everyone and convenient. And this is exactly why that energy was really needed. And he's also like Tantra teacher, teaches everyone to be live from their heart, be nice. But sexuality is the avenue where we can be anything and we can be some characters that we don't get to be in our normal life. And all that is needed is to get out from our minds and to connect with our bodies and just be spontaneous and take risk of speaking up, because definitely from his side telling me ravish me, rape me was really risky. Was a really risky thing to say to a woman in a bedroom. And yet he said that, and yet I followed it. Of course, there is a chance that it might not resonate. Really important point here. If you want your partner to be able to be spontaneous and creative and speak up during lovemaking, never judge what he has to say or she has to say. Like, even if it's off, even if you don't resonate, be gentle, because it takes a lot of courage to open up and share your fantasy. It can be something kinky, it can be something out of character, entirely inappropriate, immoral. Your fantasy is precious. It's important to listen to it, even if you don't want to make that fantasy into reality. It's important to give it voice and see what it has to mean. It doesn't have to be a direct accomplishment of this fantasy. It can be something that can be used indirectly. It can be something that can be used as a symbolism and point you towards some direction, give you some understanding. The point is to stay curious when it comes to your fantasies, when it comes to your partner's fantasy. Now, what does it really take to bring that creative spark into your bedroom? So, first of all, don't expect lust. Don't expect strong desires. If you don't have a strong desire for your self pleasure, or for your partner, it doesn't mean that it's off and it's wrong. In fact, it's actually a really fertile playground to create something from a complete scratch. Two people who have the same intention and who are safe with one another are great lovers, right? My yoni massages, I give yoni massages to women, and we don't have sexual attraction for one another, and yet we still create magic together. So, strong sexual attraction, having that horniness, lost desire, is not required for incredible, beautiful experience together. First point. Second, it can be created. You are not waiting for the time to come. You are taking this in your own hands, saying, hey, this evening, this day together, better spend a whole day together. But of course, if life is tough, few hours, and say, this will be the time for us to get intimate. How it's going to look like, we don't know. But we want to get intimate on many levels. Let's find out what happens. And then you create this space of safety, of attention for one another, where you're not distracted, when you definitely don't have your phone next to you. Really get away from that and spend some time attuning yourself to one another. Attunement can be created through many means, such as guided meditation together. Very simple. I don't know how about you. I love guided meditation. I love different teachers online. I have my own guided meditations. Feel free to use, but there are many teachers, many different guides out there. You just put your YouTube or Insight Timer or any other app and go for it. Or if you have your own meditation practice, you just sit together and meditate. Because as you notice, after this meditation we did together in the beginning of this call, I didn't ask you much. I will ask you after, but I imagine, at least that was my sense energetically, that the energy became more centered and congruent, and we are together in this, right? Imagine if we start this whole conversation from just being on the phone and just watching it halfway, it will not sink in as deep as it can possibly come through if you're really fully here with me, because this can be a transmission, not just an intellectual knowledge that I'm sharing, because you can really pick up the vibe, the energy, hitting my mic, and bring it forth. So yeah, having attunement. Attunement can be through eye gazing. Put timer on a few minutes, hold hands together, look into each other's eyes without speaking anything. Attunement can be created by giving each other 5 minutes of uninterrupted sharing anything I feel like saying, no interruptions, 5 minutes me, 5 minutes you, 2 times back and forth, sharing what's on your heart. Attunement can be created through dancing together, through singing together, through vulnerable sharings to one another, through cuddling, just spending some time unconditionally just hugging and feeling where your body wants to go in this cuddle, and then sharing, because what if your body doesn't like it? Then you share, something feels threatening here. I don't know what. Without accusing your partner, just share how you feel. Be very gentle with your language, because in such intimate space, it's very easy to scare someone off because you just too direct says, your smell is not attractive. Like, of course, if you say something like this, your partner will feel very uncomfortable, insecure. So find a gentle way to communicate this with your partner. Taking shower together can be a very beautiful bonding ritual, or spending some time together creating intimate space, such as putting the lights, the candles, choosing the music that feels really good for both of you, finding the way. And by the way, if you're not partnered, that goes along too, because this is how you connect with yourself. Currently, where I am in Austin, I don't have a lover. Does it mean that something is off and I cannot be a sexual being? No. I can be a junkie for love and look for someone as soon as possible because I have so much energy and I want someone. But my alternative is taking my time and being with myself and indulging in my self pleasure practices. Do I spontaneously want to self pleasure myself? No. I don't have that lustful, horny desire just to get off. No, I don't have that in me. So, what I do, I schedule it. I put it on my schedule that this evening will be my self pleasure practice. And I definitely need to honor it, even if there are other commitments coming through. This is a very sacred time for me to connect with myself. I cannot be teaching, sharing anything around sexuality with others if I'm not intimate with myself, if I'm not prioritizing my self pleasure. So I definitely put it on a schedule, and it has to be a few hours. It's not quick. I want to have few hours, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to touch myself right away. It means that I'm going to create space and listen to my guided meditation, make a bubble bath, lit up my altar space, do some little prayer to my God and goddesses that I love. So I'll find different ways to bring congruency to my environment, myself, my emotions. So everything feels harmonious together, like you would tune in your musical instrument, tune in yourself, that you feel cozy, you feel safe, you feel nourished. Do your meditation practice to connect to your breath, your body, and then really addressing myself on many different levels, touching my body with oils, massaging it everywhere. So it's not just me rubbing my genitals. I really love to massage myself with oils. Sometimes I will use some mirror practice of speaking compliments to myself in the mirror. I will check in. What do I want? What I desire? What's important for me right now? Where is the flow taking me? Maybe during the day I got angry, but I didn't have a chance to vent it out. Then I will give myself a chance to do that, and I will find a way to express my anger. Or maybe I need to cry over something I didn't fully have a chance to cry about. So it can be emotional, it can be creative, dancing, drawing, doodles. I'm not a good at drawing, but I can do some doodles to just connect to my inner child. Anything, and not having expectation to have a bright orgasmic experience, but just really taking one step at a time and being really present everywhere where I am. And this is where my body starts to respond with aliveness. It's like sign of gratitude that my body starts to feel like juicy, it's bubbling, something is happening in my body, and I need to honor. And then every next step is born from a previous step when I'm present. So I'm coming back to the story with your partner, creating that sacred space for attunement. In Tantra, sexuality is sacred and it's a life force energy. It's not just the lust. A lot of people confuse sexual energy with lustful desire, with passion. Well, it's just one ways of expressing your sexuality. Nothing wrong with lust and passion, but we don't want that to take over us. Even if you consider yourself a lustful person who has so much desire for sex, consider expanding it. Don't block it. Don't be ashamed about it. I'm not going to take you in the opposite extreme, but just treat it as one aspect, and one aspect that you want to be comfortable with. So you're not putting it on the shoulders of your partner that they have to satisfy you all the time. Really be comfortable in your own juicy, passionate energy. Enjoy it. Float with it, dance with it, find a way that you feel comfortable with your sexual energy. And in Tantra, it's life force energy. Sexual energy is the Shakti power, it's the life force, it's the flow of nature. So, which means that if you block that force, if you don't water that force, if you don't actively engage in that way, that your aliveness starts to dim. And then you become more robotic, and then life becomes just a bunch of routine motions and movements and schedules. And then you're no longer connected with that creative spontaneity within you. So, with your partner or alone, you can consciously create that space for spontaneity and creativity by actively engaging with that. Like, let's be intimate in any way. Let's find out how we want to be intimate. And this is also an opportunity to learn your yeses and no, because if any movement of your partner feels somehow, you don't ever override your response trying to please the other. Just learn this from the beginning and know that you never satisfy your partner truly by disregarding your boundaries. Think about, would you want them to disregard their needs and desires in order to satisfy you? Of course not. We want it to be mutual. We want it to be a fuck yes. We don't want it to be a compromise. Okay, I'll give you this hand job, so you give me this. Like, it's not a transaction. We never follow their desire without your full enthusiastic yes. And if you say no, it doesn't mean that this is over. I just broke it entirely. No, it just means that there is a diversion happening. Trust me, I've been there myself. It's usually common for women, but men can also relate that you start engaging, like there's penetrative sex, for example, and I'm not fully ready. And it's a little painful, but I guess I can be with that because they are so much on fire and I don't want to be the one who ruins it. And I would tell my partner, hey, I'm not feeling quite there yet. And it would be so amazing to hear them tell me, thank you. Thank you for taking care of yourself. Oh my God, I'm so happy you told me this. Let's take a step back and let's see where we can connect, where we feel total enthusiastic yes. So, yeah, sexuality is not about just the repetitive movements and stimulation and getting off. There is a lot more. And when you start exploring that more, that creativity, that spiritual essence of it, of connecting to something greater within yourself, that flow of being taken over and dancing with yourself and coming alive in so many levels, not just genitally, but on many others, like feeling tingling everywhere in your body and feeling emotions bursting open, like a sense that something cracks open in your heart and you start feeling a lot more tenderness and compassion for yourself and other. It's so priceless. It's really priceless. And so often we overlook it because we're so attached to how it's supposed to look like. We're too attached to definitions of good sex. And we want to be good boys and girls and make it right instead of trusting our hearts, our bodies. They know. They know. If you're no longer hard, for example, as a man, it's not a failure. It's an opportunity for a different type of connection. And it's so important to honor your cock and trust it. That when it's hard, it's right. When it's not hard, it's right. And not to treat it as failure. And so often women also don't realize that if it's soft, it doesn't mean they don't want us. I have one of my mentors who said that soft cock is vulnerable as a tender one. It's when the heart is more open. And there is really doesn't mean that your lovemaking is over. It just means that this is a different phase and we want to respect it, right? And we want to really honor where we are now as opposed to where we used to be when we were young or how those porn stars are doing it, not comparing ourselves to others, and to even ourselves the way it was yesterday, or even if the fantasy brought us together, like we came together to fulfill a certain kinky fantasy or some tantric fantasy, some kind of fantasy, we don't want to be attached to the way it looks like, and give the spontaneity, the creativity, a flow of to take it somewhere deeper, and trust that it has the way. That creativity, that flow, like honoring where you are in a present moment and your impulses and desire and spontaneity and vulnerability, is the most loving thing you can do to yourself and your partner. I will wrap it up with another vulnerable story of sexual creativity when it comes to my personal life. I had a fantasy of having sex with two men, and I felt wild and juicy and delicious. And finally, I'm bringing two lovers together, and it looks like it's going to happen. And my imagination goes wild, like I'm seeing those beautiful porn images of two cocks, and this is what they do. Like, amazing, delicious. I want that. But then when the reality kicks in, when we are three of us are approaching bedroom, it all crumbles. Because I'm starting to see, behind the fantasy and beautiful cocks and beautiful sex positions, we are humans, and we have all kinds of insecurities. My insecurities are taking me over. I'm coming back to my Russian childhood and thinking, okay, now I'm the fallen woman. There's no way back. And the place where I grew up, the worst curse for a woman is like you're a prostitute. And prostitute is someone who is promiscuous. It's not even about money. It's just having sex with many people. For a woman, it's the worst, like most shameful thing. And I thought I was over it. I thought I did enough therapy. I thought I'm in sex education and kink and tantra, I'm done with it. No, I wasn't done. My whole body responded with that shame and insecurity, and I couldn't even speak about it. I froze. I was so uncomfortable, and I just wanted it to be over. Like, okay, I'm already here. Let's be done with this. I had that strong like fear and shame. And then one of the guys was the same, because he was also from Russia, and he had all these ideas about being a gay, that if you're in the same bed with another man, that means you're gay. And then he's getting all frozen. And I'm looking at him like, this is it. This was the biggest epic failure I could possibly imagine. And I feel so embarrassed because it was all my idea. So all of this on top of the other, like I want to escape. And thank God the guy number three, well, the three of us, guy number two, was not Russian. He was a very skilled and experienced in sexuality and tantra. That was his comfort zone. That was his playground. He was so comfortable. He started to make fun. He started to make jokes. He's like this other guy that was the Russian guy. He wants to escape. He's like, okay, I'm a bit uncomfortable. You guys continue together. I'm out. And then he starts to make joke. The British guy, that the other guy that was with me, he's like, oh, let's see where Rina goes. If I go to this room and you go to the other room, will she chase you or will she chase me? So he starts to make some ridiculous jokes, and that makes it lighter. And then we finally try something else. Then he says, well, let's try this position. How about that? And let's try this position. And then he makes everything so much lighter. We all of a sudden starting to drop all the ideas of how it's supposed to be. Like the Russian guy cannot get hard on, and he feels embarrassed that he's not hard, but it's hard because the other guy is present and all these insecurities come through. So we're starting to drop the idea of how it's supposed to look like. I'm starting to drop that, well, this porn image is not going to happen. So it is what it is. At least we're making fun of it. And we're all starting to drop all these preconceived notions of how it has to look like. And we start being honest. And at some point, I break down. I start to break down. There was a point that laughingly making jokes, they start to open my legs and look there. And that was my moment. I broke down. I was the most vulnerable. Two men looking between my legs and having some conversations around what they see. That was like super vulnerable for me. And I break down and I start crying. And that moment, me crying, they start to kiss my tears, one guy on each side. And that was the most memorable moment of this interaction. Like, I don't even want to try with two men ever again, because nothing will ever beat that. At least that's how I feel at this moment, because this was the most precious. I felt like there was this healing happening, like I'm loved by masculine and all men are loving me, and I'm supported not only in my orgasmicness and goddess nature, but in my most vulnerable fears. And after they kissed my tears and I cried and we all cuddled, all the insecurities were gone. And this is when everything finally worked and they came at the same time. And two guys like fell in love with each other and we had delicious breakfast soon after. It was a happy ending, but we had to really drop it and go creatively in some unknown directions of being vulnerable, honest, and playful with one another. And if we were too attached to how it's supposed to look like, performance and looks and fantasy idea, then none of this would happen. We would not be able to mold our true nature into some fantasy. And not to mention that reality turned out so much more beautiful than any porn image I've seen. So at some point, this brings me the wisdom of trusting present moment and reality of my body and reality of my energy and the energy around me more than any preconceived notions of how it has to look like, what is success, what is failure, what makes me beautiful, what makes me ugly. Like the reality is far more beautiful, and that reality is accessed in trusting the present moment, being open, vulnerable, speaking the truth, being authentic, exposing ourselves, and following the flow where it takes you, taking the risk of speaking up, even if it feels weird, like, but I feel like speaking up. I need to tell you this. And of course, it's a risk, and there is might be a partner who will not embrace it. Well, then it's not your partner. That's also a good way to find out. You don't want to stay in the wrong relationship with the wrong lover for too long. Like, you better speak your truth, expose yourself, expose your vulnerabilities. If things not flowing, there will be a better person for both of you. But start from yourself. Don't ever be afraid of making yourself pleasure practice extra delicious, extra juicy, extra vulnerable, extra creative. Take it further. Don't just use the vibrator to get off. Don't just jerk yourself in a shower and then go to work. Like, really find that possibility of you connecting with yourself, because when you connect to yourself in such deep way, this is when it becomes possible to do it with others, right? And when you confess yourself, the most darkest, the deepest, the juiciest, and you embrace yourself there, this is when it doesn't matter anymore if others don't. Like, if you love your kinks and traumas and dramas within yourself, then even if your lover rejects you, as long as you don't reject yourself, you're safe. You know that you got yourself. And this is why my first step, encouragement, is to start with your own creative self-pleasure practice. So I feel like this is just on time. And I didn't read your chat box as I was sharing it, but this can be a good opportunity to really connect. Yeah, so many times we focus only on the orgasm instead of other things that can go along with wonderful sexuality. Hmm. Yeah, I love the idea of guiding your other in the massage, the pace, the communication, the elements. Exactly. There are so many possibilities. So I think I muted everyone. If someone wants to raise hand or share something, if anything resonated, you can use the chat box, or you can use, you can just, I mean, it's not many of us, we can all speak up here. Yes. Yeah, I see some hearts and all. And while before that happens, I can also, um, so insightful. Hmm. Yeah, focusing on pleasure in your partner. Imagine if we both don't know what we like, and instead we try to guess what other person likes, how hard it is for us, right? Because we all put ourselves in the mercy of the other person instead of owning what we want and recognizing that our pleasure is important. Now, I can imagine that's for some of you, the question can be that, well, what to do if I don't even know what I want? And this is the moment of, well, first of all, don't ever think that what you want today can be the same as what you want tomorrow, but sometimes it can be the case. But the idea is to really slow down, to create that safe space of just enjoying your own breath, enjoying the simplicity and connecting to your body and inquiring what is important for me in my sexuality? What do I really desire? What do I truly want? And trusting the answer, trusting the impulse from within might be about safety. It might be about venting out your emotions. It might be about following certain fantasy and see where it takes you. And just trusting your deeper impulse. So a lot of it comes down to really self-love and self-trust, which starts from listening to yourself, trust from starting from really tuning in to yourself and listening to yourself. Yeah, so this is a good time for any questions and answers. Thank you so much for staying with me through this talk. I hope it was inspiring, insightful. I'm so curious to hear any other feedback. It's interesting what you said goes with my comments above. You talk about tantric, the connection between people and making real love to someone. Tantra, yeah, Tantra and creativity are really synonymous because life itself is a creative process. It is a creative process. Of course, sometimes we're busy with survival. And I really hope that these days, for at least those of you who are listening here, we don't need to use sex for survival, and it doesn't have to be performative. And maybe at some point in life we had to, or our ancestors had to, but now it's our honor to take it further and use it to play, to dance with life, to dance with yourself and others. Mm. You schedule a time for bringing pleasure to ourselves. Oh, yes, trust me, I would never pleasure myself unless I schedule time, because it's just life itself is not designed for our self-pleasure, and it just doesn't happen spontaneously. And sometimes maybe for some of you it does. For me, it would never happen. And I would expect that some prince has to come, Prince Charming, who will take me to heaven. And then I would wait and I would put such a high pressure on another person, even if this person shows up in my life. No, our pleasure is really in our hands. Of course, some lovers might not be compatible. And yeah, there is so much that we can do to bring ourselves in that place of juiciness and satisfaction, and creating intention and creating time for that and giving it ample of time without any distraction is really the key here. So my work so much revolves around sacred sexuality, and I'm really passionate about it. I want to bring more to myself and the world, and I feel like the world becomes a better place when we deeply connect to ourselves and our loved ones sexually. Of course, marriages are staying stronger when there is a continuous spark between partners and continuous development of intimacy throughout the years. And of course, the self-love, self-connections brings us so much closer to the core of our being, to the present moment. This is the divinity itself, being present with ourselves. It's so simple. Our breath, our step, our touch is really divine if we are fully, fully there. So since no one is asking anything, I can share about my upcoming offering, which is for women only. And if you're a man listening to it, maybe you can recommend it if it resonates, of course, to your beloved, your woman, the woman in your life that you feel that are their treasure, because this is really for a very special woman. It's not for everyone. This is the offering of connecting together in a sisterhood container to explore the deep healing and creative side of sexuality. So it's my mentor who taught me yoni massage, Surya. She's the one who is bringing it together, and I'm with her partnering up on yoni massage study. Yoni massage is a tantric ceremonial journey of connecting women to their deepest orgasmic potential. Yes, there is a lot of spontaneity. And at the same time, for the convenience, we teach yoni mapping, understanding our pleasure points and understanding how to work in a trauma informed way when we understand there can be trauma stored in our body, how to release it, how to heal it, how to create safety for yourself and the others. We already had 2 rounds of women like that last year, and some women joined for personal needs, and other women joined because they want to have it as their profession. So this is a full-on professional training, which can be used for some of us more in the personal realm about studying yourself and connecting to your fellow women. This is an opportunity to heal your sister wound, opportunity to understand better your body, your orgasmic potential, and to bring a positive wave of sexuality, because all we are creating is a lot of safety and support for one another. We begin February 1st, and then our in-person meeting is March 1st in Austin, Texas, but we'll have more rounds, so please don't hesitate to connect with me if that feels interesting to you. It's a 4-month container, after which you will be a certified professional yoni massage practitioner in this modality, sacred feminine touch ceremony. I've been practicing it for many years, and it's so much healing that is brought to women, and I just love this modality. It really changed my life and changed lives of many of my fellow sisters. So I have a lot of trust in that, and I really feel the world needs more healing hands. A lot of women who need yoni massages. I cannot take so many women. I'm getting quite booked up these days, and many women ask me, "Oh, if you are from this state, or is anybody who is in Boston and LA in different cities?" And I don't know. And I want to create a sisterhood of trusted women so we can do our own exchanges and also offer this work to women who need it. And women definitely need it. Most of us are so disconnected from ourselves. My final vision is to bring it into spas, to normalize yoni massages as a healing modality and have different biohacking, like new age spas, like such as like for example, any massage and flotation tanks and sauna. There are places like in Austin that have ketamine clinics on another floor, and another floor for yoni massages, so women can normalize it and receive this luxurious goddess-like treatments just when they feel like, just by the right practitioner, maybe once a year as maintenance, like going to gynecologist, or if there is a struggle there, if there is numbness or pain during intercourse or disconnection somehow, then more often than that, to be able to fully receive and receive fabulously, learn your yeses and no, learn how to get out of your head and come deeper to the body. So that's my final vision, to change the world in this way. I'm feeling on fire. It brings a lot of joy and meaning in my life. And I'm thrilled to share it with the world. So this is one of my offerings that feels most alive these days. But there are many others, and I imagine you know how to connect with me, as you know my email and socials. Yeah, otherwise, I just want to open this up for any other questions. If anyone has some sharing or questions, you can write anonymously here. I'm only recording myself. But those who have subscribed for this masterclass, they will receive the recording. Of all thousands and thousands of people who have wandered through my life, you have turned out to be the very most significant person I've ever met into my entire life. You have been a spectacular influence on me in so many great ways. Well, thank you so much, Bob. I truly appreciate. I appreciate you sharing this. I didn't know that I was that important to you. So I'm really honored to hear this. And yeah, I'm happy to know you. And thank you for being so open and vulnerable with me. Yeah, when it comes to men's work, the alternative to yoni massage is lingam massage. Lingam massage is not a classic happy ending massage for men. It's about educating men on how to move their sexual energy so they are not attached to ejaculation. A lot of men think that sex is all about ejaculating. Well, there is a lot more, and there is a possibility of having energetic orgasm, multiple orgasm, being able to the master of your energy, so you don't have a premature ejaculation as well, and that you are able to connect to your whole body and feel alive in your fullness of your being. So this is another offering that I don't actively advertise because I don't want a bunch of guys reaching out for happy endings. I want the right people. So I felt pretty safe in this space to share it with you. I imagine those who came to listen to this lecture, they're interested in more creative side of sexuality. So this is the linga massage offering that I have for men. I don't have official educational part for that, but I have couples who reach out to me on private basis to learn yoni linga massage with one another. So another recommendation for creative sexuality is go out there, meet people, go to play parties, go to different kink workshops, education workshops, tantra workshops to get inspired, because we all can inspire each other and we can unite on the same mission of love and openness and uninhibited expressions in our sexuality. So I feel like this is a good time to wrap things up, but I'm so open to hear any feedback or questions before we let each other go. If anyone wants to share about who you are and how it landed for you, if something felt specifically interesting or maybe something you didn't resonate, it's totally fine. Everything I share is a suggestion, and pick up things that feel important, throw away things that don't feel important. Yeah, maybe somebody's typing, so I can just sit here, wait for a moment. And also, you can raise your hand if you want to share something live here with us. It's also an invitation to say hello and chat. By the way, the ropes behind me is part of my shibari and ropes practice. So my sexuality is definitely full of creative elements, but it doesn't mean that I have a lot of sex, actually. It just means that I'm more picky and more creative. So sometimes the direct sex is not even needed. Sometimes the kinky or sensual part or the tantric part can be sufficient, and that feels great. That means we can grow old and still stay sexual without needing it to be the classic way. uh, oh, some of us noticed that how much you love shibari. Yeah. I've been a professional dominatrix for 12 years in New York City. And at some point, I discovered Shibari, and that felt it. I totally transitioned. I still teach professional DOMs to be DOMs, those who are beginners. I like to ride their waves of freshness and enthusiasm, but for me, I feel like other elements of classic BDSM world kind of became outdated. And these days, I love to practice Shibari as an art of healing, self-discovery, spiritual evolution, and fun, and playfulness, and sexiness. I don't want to disregard these parts. Ah, thank you, Patty. I'm so happy you are joining this one. Thank you for being with us. Yeah, unless there are any last comments or questions, yeah, I will just drop a link for the program that I was talking to you about, but you will also find it in the email. World. It's called suhai.world, and suhai is a Japanese word for oops, I forgot to put the dot between it, for worship, adoration, and yeah, worship, adoration of the feminine. World, yeah. I really love a lot of Japanese words. They have so many words that we don't have in other language, but yeah, devotion, worship, and adoration. This is the suhai, and this is why we named this program this way. So yeah, you can check out the program here. You have it in the chat box. You'll also receive it in the email. If you're a woman, you might be interested. If you're a man, you can spread the word, because I feel like it's such a valuable experience, and I wish I had it 10 years ago, because I had to learn many things the hard way, and you can make it easier by not doing it alone, by joining the container where you can make it happen. Otherwise, I want to wish you all a beautiful time of the day. Again, thank you so much for being with me. I wish your sexuality blossom in the most beautiful, spontaneous, creative, juicy, loving, kind, intimate, and delicious way. Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, everyone, for joining me here. And have a beautiful time of the day wherever you are. Bye bye.